Hi, this is Dina Toledo, and this is assignment 5 for EDTC 627. For this assignment, our task is to redesign one of our lessons that we use throughout the school year in our upcoming unit to include a digital design activity. And so, I have to give an overview of the unit to make this lesson make sense. So in my updated lesson, which is on the right side of the screen, under instructional delivery, there are 4 days of 4 days of assignments, and the third day is the day that I'm going to add the digital design activity. In the original lesson, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that we can all see it. Um, One of the big focuses in sixth grade um, is identifying author's point of view, but also teaching the students how to write argumentative writing pieces and going over the point of view and the counter argument. So for this lesson, the objective would be students will be able to um, argumentative, read an argumentative text, identify the author's point of view, and the counter arguments by answering multiple choice and open-ended questions, achieving at least a check on the classwork rubric. Um, for this is a basic, the kids are just reading texts, and this is the very beginning of an essay. The way that I decided to add the assignment up and add more of the digital design aspect to the assignment was basically by taking the introduction and running with it. So, background, I teach sixth grade ELA in the resource room. So, my students are reading several grades below grade level. They're also writing several grades below grade level. Although they are academically behind grade level, they are thinking outside of the box. They're able to explain a lot of their thoughts and ideas, and they're able to talk more in depth about what's currently happening in society. Sixth grade is with this population, is the year where the kids are starting to realize that the world is not just what happens in the school or within their families. They're starting to realize that there's a world outside of what they see and what they're learning in class. So, um, I'm changing this lesson um, so that the goal and objective, this is now an overarching objective, is students will be able to research a current problem that has an impact on society today, develop a solution for the problem, and prove that their method of solving the problem is the most effective by writing an argumentative/persuasive essay, achieving a score of at least a 3 out of 5 on the nonfiction writing rubric. The essential questions are the essential questions that I'm required to put into every lesson. They are in the curriculum. I have my own theory about essential questions. That's another story for another day. But my focus questions are the questions that I have my kids answer. And these are the questions that really guide how I'm going to be teaching. And the 4 questions that we are going to be investigating and figuring out um, are what is a food desert? Why are food deserts so common? How do food deserts impact students, communities, and the world? And how can we fix the problem of food deserts? So it's not a secret. The community that I teach in, um, there's data on it everywhere that it is a food desert. During COVID, our schools were open so that our students could get food for themselves and their families. Every day, kids would come to school and get 3 full meals a day and 2 snacks so that they um, could just sustain having food daily in their houses. I remember when kids first started coming back to school, they were the kids that really didn't have food at home. And at the end of the day, I had one student in my class when we were first hybrid, and he would explain to me, of course, when everybody was off the Google Meet sessions, that neither of his parents had a job, and he had 3 younger siblings, so there were six mouths to feed and no income coming in. So it was very difficult. He was taking home, I think, 10 meals a day every day, which, when you think about it, is a lot. So the instructional delivery on day one, it would be, and we would be doing some background investigation. I would put the word food desert on the board and have the students discuss what that word means and if they've ever heard it before. Using what they know about food and desert when they're put together, what does that mean? We're going to read the Wonderopolis article, What is a Food Desert? And that will give the kids an overview of what the topic is. They'll annotate the text and identify the key details. On the second day of this unit, I'll remind the students that we're learning about food deserts. And today they're going to be working in small groups, reading 2 articles. The first article is a Common Lit article titled Food Deserts. And for this specific assignment, the kids will be annotating the text and answering text-based questions. The second article is a Time for Kids article titled An Oasis on Wheels. This article is about this man who lives in Boston and how he turned a school bus. It started off as one, and by the end of the article, he had 2, or when he was interviewed, he had 2. He made school buses that brought the food, fresh foods, and different things into the community and made the prices very affordable so that the families were able to afford it. And that is one of the solutions to food deserts. So this is where the kids would start to bridge the gap. On the third day, this is where the design activity comes in. So on the third day, I'll explain to the kids what sharpened design is. The link will be posted on our learning management platform. Our learning management platform currently is Schoology. So I'll post the link on Schoology and I'll explain to the students, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. I will show them an example and walk them through what exactly I need them to do. Once we're on Sharpen Design, the students they'll go through a series of prompts, and on the prompts, one of the under STEM, one of the tasks is to develop how to solve food insecurity, how to grow fresh foods and things that are sustainable. Now, using this, I hope to open my students, first expand their vocabulary, because they're words that I know they've never heard, or they've heard it, but they've never used it in context. So one of the things that it talks about on Sharpen Design is sustainability. It talks about a couple of different things that I know they haven't learned, and I want to make sure that they have some sort of understanding, because of course, as they grow up, they're going to be hearing these things a lot more. Sustainability is one of the topics. Being carbon neutral is also one of the things that it talks about on Sharpen Design. So once they're in, I'll show them and explain to them how to lock the assignment, and I'll show that a little bit later, how to lock the prompt when they see something that is relevant to what we're going to be doing in class. Once they have their prompt, they're going to take a screenshot of that and then submit it back on our LMS. That way I can see what their prompt is and they have a reminder the next day what they're working on. On the fourth day, back to the third day, they're going to work on, students will have the remainder of the class to develop a plan to solve the food scarcity problem that's occurring within our community. So prior to starting the design, we're going to talk about how our community is ultimately a food desert and why it's a food desert. Within the surrounding blocks of our school, there is a corner store and a pharmacy. There are three other convenience stores and about 6 liquor stores. Our students don't have access to grocery stores and food the same way that a lot of the counterparts that are in our surrounding county. They're not what their experience is not equivalent. So I want to make sure that they understand that prior to their design. They'll go into the design and work through things. I have another teacher in the classroom with me most of the time, so we'll be able to help guide the students into thinking on how to solve the problem. But using this design prompt, they'll be able to come up with their own ideas of how to bring fresh foods into the community, how to bring some of these things that you need every day. So even canned goods, because we know that there's value to having access to canned food versus having McDonald's every day. We know that all of that goes into being a food desert. So on the 4th day, they'll share their ideas of what they came up with their class. They'll have about 15 minutes to share, and then they'll go right into writing. Now, all of this I think is super important because it leads up to what the final task is, and it also makes it more relevant to their lives and how they are moving through the world. So one of the generators that's on Sharpen.design is there's the STEM branch, but then there's the STEM Global Impact, and that's the design that we're going to be using. And I'm going to explain to the students the features. There's the lock and the unlock. For this, I'm going to just lock in, invent a way to grow food in backyards. There's made with recycled metal. There's made with recycled plastic that is water resistant, that anyone can operate, that works without humans. All of these different things are really crucial to having the students think outside the box and think about things that they may have seen somewhere else, seen on social media, heard about from other students, heard about in other classes, and bringing all of their background knowledge back into our lesson so that they can then themselves come up with some sort of creative idea to make sure that they are solving the problem and not creating another problem, because we know in our society there are just so many problems, and we need our students now to think, okay, here's a problem. How am I going to solve it in the future? Because our students now are the future. These are the people, they start off as students and they grow up into people who are making these big decisions, who are coming up with the designs to create. They're going to be curing cancer, and they're going to be solving problems like world hunger. They're going to be doing all of these things. And if we start them thinking about how things are impacting and how they can have a global impact or an impact not just in the entire world, but even in their small communities, I think that our students will be better off and more prepared for the future. So back to the lesson, the students will be doing that design. And the reason that this design is so important in using this sharpened design is because it's not only having our students think outside the box, but they're learning about what happens globally. They are one of the big skills that I want my students to take from this is to be able to communicate with their peers. Now, that's something that my population of students has a very difficult time doing. And the more we practice it, the better the students get. But there's always a double-edged sword. We have to think about what is being taken away, and we're always told focus on the academics, focus on the curriculum. But when we do that and we only do what's in the curriculum, our students are unable to be successful in all of these other areas. So in this instance, I want to take the time to make sure that our students are thinking and communicating with their peers effectively about all of these issues. That way, they can process their ideas in a safe space with their peers, people that are thinking about things at the same level they are. A lot of times when we have conversations like these with our students, we are talking at much higher levels than they can understand, especially for a resource room population. So breaking it down and finding articles that are written for kids and that are explained for kids and showing how normal people, or what the kids would think of regular people, how they are able to make all of these big changes. And when they see things like that, they understand more, and it hones in on the fact of, hey, I can learn how to communicate about something and share my ideas so that other people understand what I'm saying. And it helps. I've noticed, I've been working in the resource room for the past 8 years, and I've noticed that a lot of the times, a lot of the frustration with my students comes in because it's not because they are reading below level, it's not because they're unable to write, it's because they're unable to explain further what their thinking is. So they might think of an idea, and then that thinking stops. They can't go any further. And if somebody asks them a question, they haven't thought all the way through what their thoughts are, so they get stuck. This assignment is really teaching them, hey, let's think about all of the parts of the problem. How are we going to fix all of the parts? How am I going to then come up with ideas and be able to talk and answer questions when people are talking to me about something? What if I don't know about the topic? Now, this is where this project comes in. Our students don't know about a lot of these different things, and this gives them the opportunity to do that. um, they're going to have the ability to think outside the box, and I've said that several times, but those are some of the things that I really want my students to be able to take away from this unit, and not just this unit and these lessons, but take from 6th grade to 7th grade. And I've noticed that a lot of the times my students are not taking a lot of the things that I'm teaching to the next level. And I think part of that is because the curriculum is still just dictating. I'm still locked into the curriculum, which doesn't give our students and myself even a space to be creative and think outside the box. And I think that when we do things like that, the students are able to retain more of the information so that they can then be successful outside in the 7th grade and the 8th grade, and until they are done in our school system. So that is the redesign for my lesson. It would be to include using sharpened design to have my students think outside the box to come up with real world solutions for real world problems. Thank you.